Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is honestly a thrilling biological detective story. We're looking at how birds navigate the globe. Every single year, billions of birds take to the skies, crossing these vast oceans and continents, which is one of nature's greatest biological achievements. But how do they actually pull it off? How do they find their way in total darkness across thousands of miles, often with absolutely no one to follow?
To really wrap our heads around the sheer, staggering scale of this journey, we have to start with this number, 11,000. That is the number of kilometers some of these birds are flying, entirely non-stop. Just think about that for a second. No stopping for food, no stopping for a quick drink of water, no resting. Just continuous, powered flight for over a week straight. It's wild.
The incredible athlete behind that staggering number is our first protagonist, the bar-tailed godwit. That 11,000-kilometer distance? Yeah, that's covered in a single do-or-die flight straight across the Pacific Ocean. They hatch up on the tundra in Alaska, and right when the days start getting shorter, they launch themselves into the sky and head all the way down to New Zealand. Talk about a monumental test of endurance.
Now, to even survive a marathon like that, these birds have to go through some extreme physical transformations. They enter a state called hyperphagia, basically gorging themselves until their bodies are up to 55% fat. But it's not just about adding fuel. In what is truly a mind-blowing biological trick, they actually drop their unnecessary cargo. They will absorb up to a quarter of their own internal organs. We're talking the liver, kidneys, and intestines, just to shed weight. They literally rebuild their bodies from a feeding machine into a pure, streamlined flying machine.
Okay, so the physical feat alone is crazy, but it brings up a much deeper central mystery. Imagine if you were dropped thousands of miles from home, in the pitch black, hovering over a totally featureless ocean. You'd be completely lost, right? So how on earth do these birds know their exact destination?
Well, the answer lies in this incredibly layered multi-sensory navigation toolkit. It blends the obvious physical world with forces that are completely invisible to us. They don't just rely on one single sense. They have a whole array of biological instruments at their disposal, including things that we humans can't even see, like patterns of polarized light in the sky. They use all this to form a highly accurate, built-in GPS system, constantly checking one cue against another to make sure they're exactly on track.
This toolkit starts up in the sky. Just like ancient human sailors, birds use the position of the sun at twilight to recalibrate their internal compass. And for the 95% of migrating birds that are actually traveling at night, they look to the heavens. They observe the rotation of star constellations around the North Star. That tells them where true north is, keeping them precisely on course in the dark.
But they don't just look up. They're reading the earth below, too. Closer to the ground, some species use coastal landmarks. Seabirds and homing pigeons can actually smell their way across a flyway, using complex olfactory maps to identify the terrain below purely on scent. And this is fascinating. Scientists have found that the trigeminal nerve, which hooks a bird's beak up to its brain, acts like a sensor. It measures the varying strength of the magnetic field depending on their latitude, giving them their exact global position. Oh, and scientists have even found these tiny iron granules in their ears that might be playing a role in this too.
But the absolute most mind-bending tool they have is an invisible map, the Earth's magnetic field. And they aren't just acting like a standard Boy Scout compass blindly pointing north. They use what's known as an inclination compass. So they actually sense the angle that the magnetic lines make with the surface of the Earth. That's what lets them perfectly differentiate between the poles and the equator.
So how do they actually feel this magnetic field? To answer that, we have to zoom all the way down to the quantum level. Scientists have pinpointed this specific light-sensitive protein inside the bird's eye called cryptochrome 4. This single protein is the key to what is arguably one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern biology.
Here's how this quantum compass actually works in real time. When blue light from the sky hits the bird's retina, it sets off a subatomic reaction inside that cryptochromatin 4 protein. Molecules separate into these things called radical pairs, and those pairs are incredibly sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field. This reaction then fires off a signal to a specific processing region in the bird's brain known as cluster N. The end result? The bird likely perceives the magnetic field visually. As they turn their heads, they might literally be seeing light and dark visual patterns overlaid on their normal vision, guiding them north or south. How cool is that?
We see this perfectly illustrated with the European robin. Researchers extracted cryptochrome 4 from this tiny, night-migrating bird and compared it to the exact same protein in a non-migratory bird, like your average backyard chicken. The result was exactly what you'd expect. The robin's protein was vastly more sensitive to magnetic fields. Over time, evolution has literally optimized this protein in migratory birds so it acts as a highly tuned quantum sensor. However, this ancient quantum compass is also incredibly delicate. There were these experiments in Germany that revealed something pretty alarming. When robins are placed in urban environments, the weak electromagnetic noise from human technology, we're talking everyday stuff like power lines and AM radio signals, what we call electrosmog, completely disoriented them. They totally lost their ability to find north. It was only when their enclosures were shielded with aluminum that their magnetic compass came back online. It just goes to show how fragile this intricate system really is in our modern electrified world.
Amazingly, the way these birds use these tools depends entirely on their age and experience. Juvenile birds out there flying for the very first time are running purely on inherited genetic instructions. It's a strategy called vector navigation. They are born just instinctively knowing to fly, say, southwest for 3 weeks. But if a storm blows them off course, they're lost. Experienced adults, on the other hand, use goal-oriented navigation. They've built up these complex mental maps over years of travel. So if an adult gets blown off course, it just dynamically recalculates and corrects its route to get exactly back to its specific wintering tree.
When we step back and look at the big picture here, we realize that bird migration isn't just this brutal test of endurance. It's genuinely one of nature's greatest masterpieces of quantum biological engineering. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the sky and wondered where the birds were going. And now we finally know that they are actually interacting with the quantum fabric of our planet to find their way. Like physicist Yannis Komenis noted, it seems nature devised quantum technology long before we did.
As scientists continue to unravel the precise mechanics of this incredible ability, it leaves us with a pretty profound thought. We are spending billions of dollars right now trying to develop quantum technologies in our labs. But it really makes you wonder, what other world-changing, mind-bending technologies are already perfected, quietly operating, and flying right above our heads every single night? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep looking up.